Okay, are we ready?
I'm ready.
We're
Okay,
ready.
Rita, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. We have a very interesting show today with Steve Schankman, who built his business, Contemporary Productions, into one of the largest entertainment producers in the nation. I'm Lisa Gubernick, the VP of Membership for NCJW, and my co-host is Susan Katzman, the immediate past president of NCJW. Susan and I began Coffee Talk as a way to engage our members and our non-members during a time when we couldn't be together in person. And this is our 10th episode of Coffee Talk this morning. I cannot believe it. Susan, can you?
Right.
We keep Coffee Talk topics light and entertaining, just as our audience wanted. And our next Coffee Talk will be April 27th. Be sure to stay tuned until the end of this Coffee Talk because we will be raffling off Steve's book entitled Produced by Contemporary, a celebration of 20 years producing stellar concerts and spectacular events. We will give it away to a lucky winner. And with that, Susan, you get to take it away.
Okay, I'm happy to take it away. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this dreary day, but this lively show. We are so, excuse me, we are so happy to have Steve Schankman with us today. He is a busy guy, and so we feel really lucky that he's got about an hour to spend with us talking about good stuff that he's been involved in. Steve, as probably many of you know, is from St. Louis and is a highly successful businessman and entrepreneur engaged in a host of philanthropic endeavors and other events throughout the metro area and even internationally. So, Steve, we really appreciate the time this morning. The picture of Steve, and I don't see Steve. There he is.
Here.
Okay.
I was here the whole time. I was just making coffee, although those that know me, I don't drink coffee, so I'm having my hot tea.
Very good. Okay. So, Steve will talk a little later about the backdrop behind him, which is the entrance to the zoo. And we'll discuss that in a little bit. So Steve, let's get started. For everybody on the screen, our usual approach is what we'll take this morning. I'm going to ask Steve some questions, and then we will turn things over to Lisa, and she will take questions from the chat from all of you. Okay, Steve, how'd you get started in the music business? Did your family, did you play a lot of music at home? Was there any kind of music in particular they liked and therefore you liked it? What sparked where you're at today?
Well, what sparked it we'd have to go back to my grandfathers, both grandfathers. My maternal grandfather was a bugler for the Tsar of Russia in the 1800s. Matter of fact, he came to this country in 1904. And naturally, I've never seen a picture of him on horseback in the Tsar's army playing a bugle, but he says he was. And when I would play on my trumpet as a young boy, maybe 10 or 11, the Russian theme, he would sing along with me. So I know he knew music. You had up a picture of my mom and dad. My dad's father, Jack Schankman, he was a musician. He played the violin and he also played the saxophone. In a Jewish family, the firstborn male usually is a violinist, and that was my dad. My dad was the oldest of 4 boys, and he was made to play the violin. Matter of fact, Grandpa would get him up in the middle of the night and make him play his scales. And my dad was so good, he could read a comic book and play the scales from memory. So my dad was in the St. Louis Symphony. My grandfather, Jack Schankman, started the Progressive School of Music. So music was in the air on both sides of my family. And I took up the violin for 1 year, didn't like it very much, couldn't play jazz on it, like you were playing in your theme song, and decided we had an old trumpet in the house. I would take that to Daniel Boone Grade School in the 5th grade and became a trumpet player. And I'm still here at 72 years old, playing the trumpet still. So the family was a big influence on music, but I wasn't made to play. I did it all because I wanted to, and I did play all the way up to our birth of my first son, Jason, who's now 47. I did take off for several years, and thanks to my former wife, Andy Schankman, she got me back playing again by booking Maynard Ferguson for my 40th birthday party, and had to tell me in advance about the party because part of it was that I would be playing with Maynard Ferguson. I mean, that's like being able to play baseball with Babe Ruth. So that's how we got started. And music has always been in the air with me, and I love music. My kids are musical. My son is a great keyboardist, Peter Schankman, with the hottest band in town called Fat Pocket. And you all may know I still play with the fabulous Motown Review. I've played for many of your kids' weddings and parties and country clubs and at the J and so forth and so on.
What's the name of your son's group?
Fat Pocket.
Fat Pocket.
Just like me, they're on a furlough right now, but we all start back in April and May. I think my first party's at Westwood Country Club on May the 1st with Motown. So everything got moved. Most jobs are still around, but everything got moved ahead because of the pandemic. But you know, music is what grounds me. If you read my book in the intro, by the way, 40 years of music and events, just to correct that, now 52 years, because the book is 12 years old. But music is what grounds me. It's the international communicator. I can talk to people from all over the world about Miles Davis and Chuck Berry because it's international and it's not just localized. It's really what my grounding's all about, is music.
Well, Steve, given all that, why'd you stay in St. Louis? Was there ever thought of
people
elsewhere?
ask that question because you showed another picture that was me and my partner Irv Zuckerman. Irv and I went to 1st grade together at Daniel Boone and went all the way through high school and college. And when he got the opportunity, when we sold the company in 1998, Irv decided to take a job with the company in LA, and he's in Beverly Hills. Matter of fact, he lives in Barbra Streisand's friend's house. You remember John Peters, the producer. That's the house Irv lives in Beverly Hills. And I decided to stay. I mean, a lot of people say St. Louis, all these problems and things and all these big companies have sold. And as reading Michael Steinberg's book, I remember the one quote he has in there, even a broken clock is right twice a day. And, you know, St. Louis is right many more times than twice a day. St. Louis is such a great community. As some of you know, I was chairman of the St. Louis Zoo, and that's why I have the Albert Paley sculpture behind me. And the reason that happened is because Thelma Zalk had seen the sketch of this when she was in New York, and the sketch was going to be built for the Bronx Zoo, and the Bronx Zoo decided they didn't want to spend the money, and she put up $1 million actually to bring the sculpture here, and I matched her gift to build the plaza, the Schankman Family Plaza, to put that sculpture in. But we have the #1 zoo in the country. I mean, you may say San Diego, they got a safari park, but we're having a safari park built right now in North County, in the 340 acres that Mike Steinberg was very influential in making happen. And so that'll be open in a couple of years. But we're the #1 zoo in the country. We have one of the best museums. We're one of the best botanical gardens. We have the best, by far, Lewis is on, by far, Cardinals. I mean, everybody lives in, I meet people all over the country, all over the world, that no matter what city they live in New York, they still love the Cardinals. So we have the Cardinals, we have the Blues, the Stanley Cup winners, we had the Rams who won the Super Bowl. We have a wonderful city. We have a great education system. We have a great family. We have a great Jewish population. We have one of the best Jays in the country. So why stay in St. Louis? This is where I was born. This is where I belong. This is where I will stay, even though we travel a lot and we get out of St. Louis a lot, but we always come back. This is my home.
You're not available to be mayor of St. Louis, are you?
Well, I live in, unless we're going to let somebody that lives in the county become mayor. You know, whoever becomes mayor, I don't know. We have 2 ladies running, and one of those 2 will win. We have all this money now. The way this money is spent, hundreds of millions of dollars to do the right things for St. Louis. We always have so many plans. You know, how about one plan? Let's get the security in St. Louis City right. People are afraid to go into the city. I don't go if I don't have to now. That says a lot because I play at the MAC, I play at the Four Seasons. I mean, I get booked in the city a lot. And I think once we get our sports back up and running, I think people will feel more safe because right now it looks like it's derelict downtown. But we need to spend this money on the right things. We need one plan. When St. Louis was at its best back in the day, you know, Washington Avenue with all the shoe companies and Edison Brothers, my friend Peter Edison's family, it was a wonderful place to be, the city of St. Louis. We shopped at the St. Louis Center. I remember doing the opening with Bob Hope and Nelson Riddle's orchestra. That's how far we have to go back to that. And we, you know, we lost all our people in East St. Louis. And then the next thing is it's contagious. It's like cancer. Now we lose everybody in St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis is so small population-wise. We need one plan. And if we could get the aldermen, and there's going to be less of them, together, and Civic Progress and all these other organizations that are now one, they've all come together. But we need one plan. We can't have different agendas. And I think we can make something happen. We have another big chance in St. Louis. What's going on with the mapping company and what goes on with Cartex and what's going on with Wash U and St. Louis U and other things in the health industry in the city of St. Louis, not just the county. I think we can make a better city if we get one plan. And, you know, I always say, and I was quoted in the Post-Dispatch last year, don't let your future land on you. Create your future. We have a chance again with these great organizations to bring this city back up to where it needs to be and start talking what's great about St. Louis and stop saying what's bad about it. I mean, why do we have to always talk about the negatives? The positives always outweigh the negative. And as I'm sure Louis has heard this quote before, you can't win the game if you don't take the shot. But we don't need to sit around and wait. We need to do this. We need to be proactive. So no, I get listened to about once every millennium now because the young people are running the world and the young people have great ideas, but they have to get a plan together and they have to stick to it. We can't keep changing course.
Well, along those lines, do you ever, and I digress momentarily here, but do you ever see or envision the city and county merging?
Well, there's rights and wrongs for it. I mean, nobody in the county wants to be part of the city because the city's losing money. Now maybe Sam Page is going, wow, they got hundreds of millions of dollars. Maybe we ought to join up. Maybe something will happen. But it doesn't work really by being disjointed. It works by being together. Together is better. That was our theme all year with the pandemic. So I really believe it's not a bad idea, again, but how do we do it? I mean, we have how many police forces, how many fire departments? They've tried a few mergers between some of the county municipalities and it's worked. So once again, we need the one plan. And if the one plan includes putting both the county and the city together, then I would be for it. Politics plays too big of a role in the world now. When I was growing up, you know, I was born in the time that Truman was president. We had a plan in this country. Now we have agendas, and the political agendas are eating up America. And I'm not going to politicize here, but you know, if we have to pay more taxes and the stock market goes up, stop complaining about paying more taxes. Because if the stock market's doing good and the economy's doing good, it'll outweigh the increase in taxes. Nobody wants increased taxes. So not to get too political, I think that we need this agenda that everybody joins because all the separate agendas are really destroying what has been such a great, wonderful country to live in. I mean, let's be serious. Would you want to live anywhere else? I mean, this is the place to be.
So since it's the place to be, and you formed and run Contemporary Productions here, how did you come to form Contemporary Productions?
Well, the story's in the book. It's a really pretty simple story, and some on the screen know the story. So I was going to UMSL. I was in pre-law. I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought a lawyer would be a good job, you know, nice Jewish boy. My mom could brag about me. A doctor was too hard. I didn't want to take all that schooling because I've been working since I was 12 years old. I started working at my grandpa's store in East St. Louis. So I love business and I love watching him and the way he handled the customers. And actually the customers lived on those HTC checks. So everything was on credit. Matter of fact, one day, because we wrote it down on cards, what they charged at the store in East St. Louis, I saw him hit a 1 in front of about 40 cents. I made it $1.40. I said, Grandpa, I think you made a mistake. He says, no. Carrying charge. We have to have a carrying charge. I didn't know what a carrying charge was, but I thought he was cheating them. And I realized Well, sure, you're carrying them for 2 weeks, but every 2 weeks for on credit. Anyway, I love business, so I started a company called Sound Productions when I was about 15 years old. I booked a couple of bands. Some people Alan Oxenhandler, Alan Ox, a lot of you know him. He had a band called The Chosen Few, and there was another band that I formed called the Impact Soul Review with Barry Levin and Mark Myers and other people some of you know. And I love booking bands as a sideline. At the same time, I was working at Walgreens as an assistant pharmacist. I was filling prescriptions and booking bar mitzvahs at the same time on the speakerphone. I finally lost that job. It's the only job I've ever been fired from. And it ended up going, instead of to law school at SLU, which is where I wanted to go, on Grand Avenue, instead of going straight, I made a left turn and did the Grateful Dead at the Fox Theater in 1969 in February, which was the first concert that Contemporary ever did. But again, I never thought I was going to be in the entertainment business. I wanted to play the trumpet in a band and be a lawyer and provide for my family at the time. And we got lucky. We met a man by the name of Frank Barcelona. He owned a company called Premier Talent in New York, whereas William Morris and ICM and all these other agencies have multiple offices around the country, in New York and LA, the Third Coast and Nashville. Frank only had his company in New York, but he had all the big acts, Bruce Springsteen, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, the Rolling Stones. And we were booking in 1973, 2 shows. We actually did one show with Yes, and the opening act was Poco. Yes was John Anderson's band. And we sold out the first night, 10,536 seats. That's the Keel. That's before the Enterprise Center was built. And we got recognized by Bill Elson, who was the agent, who mentioned that to Frank Barcelona, that we have a sellout in St. Louis. And they decided, let's do a second night. We sold out the second night. Well, Frank Barcelona was so amazed at the fact we did 4 times the business as New York and LA. He wanted to meet Irv and I, and we got a call from the agent saying, could you guys come to New York? And I said, well, sure, we can go to New York. It's about a 24-hour drive. We'll leave tomorrow. Oh, no. He wants to see you today. So it was only the second time I was on an airplane, I think, in my whole life. And we flew to New York and met Frank Barcelona. And Frank says, you guys are doing a great job. I'm in my early 20s, so was Irv. He says, I'm going to give you all of our acts in St. Louis. And then another agent, Barry Fay, who's now deceased, out of Denver, said, well, I want to keep Kansas City because that's my territory. Don't give him that. He says, as a matter of fact, I'm thinking about giving them Kansas City as well. So we had St. Louis in office and an office in Kansas City. And that was the beginning of 22,000 concerts and events that we've done in the last 52 years.
Wow.
The big break, I call it, because without him recognizing us, every territory had its own promoter. Some of you are old enough to remember Bill Graham. Bill Graham was the godfather promoting. He's long gone. He died by accident, actually. He hit a power line on his way back in a helicopter from Shoreline Amphitheater doing a Huey Lewis concert. He was in the movie Bugsy. He plays a part in that movie. Unfortunately, never got to see it. He died before it came out. But there was Bill Graham in San Francisco and New York, the Fillmore, if you remember that, if you're in the rock and roll. And then you had other promoters like Pace out of Texas and Ron Delzner out of New York. A lot of good Jewish promoters, the Beckers, the Grahams, the Delzners throughout the country, and the Fays, Barry Fay. So it became a territorial type of business. And we started with St. Louis, then we got Kansas City. And by the time we were done, we were doing shows internationally. We were the leading company in comedy. Many of you know that Jerry Seinfeld was one of our acts that we handled starting in the mid-90s. As a matter of fact, the person that I assigned to that project is still with Jerry many, many years later. We started Tim Allen's career only about 3 weeks out of prison. Some of you have read about it on the internet. He decided to get into the drug sales, the illegal drug sales. And we started Tim's career and Louis Anderson's career and Roseanne Barr, who always would tell the story about growing up in Utah as a cowboy, and Yippee-yi-yo-hi-yay. That was one of her jokes. So, we were big in the entertainment business in all facets, even in Christian music, jazz, rock, country, the biggest shows that you could imagine. We did U2 as the halftime show at Super Bowl and the year after the incredible thing that happened in New York, 9/11. And even a papal visit, a Jewish boy got to produce the papal visit in 1999, which I thought was really funny that I would be picked out of the 3 companies. But what was told to me by the Archdiocese that I had more passion to do this papal visit than anything else. But as you may have heard in my book or heard me say, there were only two shows I never produced. That was Elvis Presley and the Pope. And here I was in 1999, and I know Andy's getting a kick out of this. Here I am with the Pope, and you can't tell, but what I'm saying is shalom. And he said shalom back to me. So listen, the most visible person ever to exist on the earth, and I got to meet, and it was a real moving moment. But even as great as meeting the Pope was meeting Rosa Parks. So I'm at the cathedral where we did the Pope, and here comes Rosa Parks, and actually Susan Talvey was walking with her. And first of all, I hugged Susan Talvey. I said, "You're the first Jew I've seen in months." I mean, I'm doing this Catholic event, and then I got to meet Rosa Parks. And you know, my kid just read about Rosa Parks in school and Martin Luther King, and to be able to sit with them and talk about what the world really is about, and that color is not about a person; it's just a color, and everybody's equal. I mean, it's just the fact that I met Rosa Parks that day meant a whole lot to me, and it's just it's a wonderful business to be in, entertainment, because you never know who you're going to be with, who you're going to meet, and the stories you're going to be able to talk about. I mean, Andy will remember on her birthday, which was the same date as Robin Williams. I was doing Robin Williams, not the same age, but the same. She's much younger. The same date, and Robin got on the phone and did his whole Popeye routine as he sang happy birthday to her. I'm in my car going somewhere on my birthday, and I get a call from Jay Leno telling me happy birthday. I mean, the entertainment business is a lot of fun to be in, because we do what I always would say is what we do for business, to my people that work for me. What we do for business, what everybody else does for fun and enjoyment. So I gave you a long story how the company came together. Most people may know that in 1998 it was time to let go of a 30-year-old company because an offer I couldn't refuse, and we sold the company to what became Live Nation, the largest entertainment company in the world. And I didn't like it. Andy and I talked about it. We were in San Francisco with our son Peter, and I said, yeah, they're paying me some money and I got a fancy office, but I don't think I'm achieving what I want to achieve in my life. I'm 50 something years old, young 50s, and there's too much more to life than working for these people. Plus I don't like what they're doing. They're overcharging everybody. And I didn't like being the owner of Riverport, the former owner, because everybody was complaining about it. And it was time to leave and start over. So within about 3 weeks, I was in a new company called Contemporary Events, and I moved into Michael Steinberg's beautiful building where I'm talking to you from right now on Carondelet. I've been here over 20 years. Andy did these beautiful offices here with her great talent, and actually did all the art in the building. But the thing is you have to do what makes you happy. You know, there's a reason the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror. I mean, you got to look forward, because looking back sometimes isn't what you want to see. And I see so much, you know, you're only as old as you feel. Well, I don't feel old. I feel young, and I feel like we have much more to accomplish. And what the company did in virtual this year is amazing. I mean, we totally pivoted the company April 1st into virtual, not only the JLA, but so many other events. We just completed 2 events with Kevin Nealon for major companies. We did Stifel's major meeting they do every year virtually. I mean, how do you do a major meeting around the world virtually? So we had to learn the virtual business. We've become the leading virtual company, certainly in St. Louis, and probably in the top 20, 25 in the country. We just completed last week, I went to Nashville to film a concert that's going to be on March 31st. If you're a member of the St. Louis Zoo or any zoo, you'll be able to get the link. It's called All Together for Animals. You can go on the web and get that link. But the idea behind it was we were going to do a live concert in September out in LA with some of the members of Fleetwood Mac. I had Leonardo DiCaprio was going to MC it. We had also the members of Guns N' Roses. That's a story in itself, because Slash is on the board of the LA Zoo. We also had Dave Matthews, and we're going to do a live show for all the zoos in America. There's 240 accredited zoos and aquariums, and with COVID, that was impossible. So I woke up one morning in November and decided that why don't we do a virtual show? The easiest way to do it is go where the artists are, and that's Nashville, 45-minute flight from here. So I got my friends, Old Dominion, who had the best song of the year on the country show, the country market. Brad Paisley, who we've worked with before, he just did a virtual event with us for a company in Quincy, Illinois last week. My old friend, Winona Judd, we all remember Winona, Ashley McBride, Shy Carter, and a couple other artists. And we got a great MC who's also big on the CMT channel. I'm not a big country person, but country music sells. So for $30 donation, you'll be able to see this a little over an hour's show. I saw the first print. It's incredible. It's all about the animals. You'll see different zoos and aquariums and aviaries, and we're going to raise millions of dollars, and it's going to be on March 31st, and it's all virtual. So this is the biggest virtual event we've ever done, and probably one of the bigger ones in the country, because we'll have around 1 million or 2 viewers that night. So pivoting company is very important to wake up and decide that you're not going to be in the live event business for a year. Our first live event will be with the Joshua Chamberlain Society next month at Union Station. So these events are coming back. We'll always have some virtual, some meetings that people would travel for in distant places. They'll realize that virtual works, but it's just not the same. It's not the same as being socializing and being together.
Wow, okay. You gave me a lot to think about there.
Part two.
22,000 shows over your career that you've produced in some way. Were there any that really stood out? I mean, obviously the Pope, that one.
Well, there are a lot of political people. I mean, I got to do a bunch of dates. I mean, 41, Bush came to Riverport. That was a night I'll never forget. I mean, he came to do a fundraiser for Kit Bond. And here I am backstage with the President of the United States. I was with 43 many times. We did one event for 50 people over at a company over by the airport. So John Brower's company. So, you know, I was with a lot of political people over the years. But music is what drives me. And to have managed Maynard Ferguson was a highlight in my life. And that wouldn't have happened without Andy, because I knew him, but not as well as I knew him after my 40th birthday. And getting to know Maynard Ferguson was the, you know, one of the highest points of my life. He was the greatest trumpet player in the world and one of the best teachers of music, more than just a musician and making money as an artist performing. He would go do clinics. And although he only lived to 78 years old, he was bigger than life and still remains a part of my life. I got to manage him towards the end of his life. I managed him for 7 years. I took him from really a man with nothing as far as assets except his music to a millionaire by the time he died, which was nothing he really cared about, but I did, because he deserved a great life. I remember taking Andy up to Salvo Row. She picked out all of his clothes that he would perform in. So, I mean, here he was looking like $1 million, and he deserved it. So managing him was a high point in my life. But concert-wise, well, the most profitable concert I ever did was Guns N' Roses. It was the Riot in 1991, only a couple of weeks after we opened this beautiful brand new amphitheater called Riverport Performing Arts Center. And he decided to leave the stage for a while and caused a little bit of a ruckus, actually a Code 1000. The only time Code 1000 had ever been called in St. Louis, which means any police officer here at 11 o'clock at night in our that can hear us, please respond. So we had about 600 police officers from 40 different precincts show up to clear the audience. It wasn't the audience's fault. He left the stage. He wasn't very nice. There's a whole backstory to it, which we don't have time to talk about, but we sued him. We won the lawsuit. I have a great attorney, Bob Blitz, who sued him. He's also the one suing the Rams right now. But, you know, we got to keep the money. We didn't pay him. The concessions were great that night. It was very profitable, but it was a low spot in my life. People say the high spot and the low spot. Opening Riverport Amphitheater in June the 2nd, was it? No. June the 14th of 1991 with Stevie Winwood was a highlight of my life. I built my own amphitheater for 21,000 people. I helped design it. The architect that's doing our new venue, Mike Steinberg's new venue in Chesterfield, Abe Sesteta, same architect, working with Lou Chiodini. But it was a highlight of my life on June the 14th, and the lowest part of my life was July the 2nd. So I lived and died within 2 weeks. But you know what? We figured a way the next day to do a press conference with the Maryland Heights Police, and we turned it around. Because people said it's not going to be safe to go there. There's going to be riots. People are going to hurt each other. And meanwhile, it was the strongest amphitheater in the country that year. We're always in the top 3 in the country every year. And the president came in November. It must be pretty safe the president's coming. And so did Michael Crawford and a lot of other artists that some of you may have seen. So we became a great asset. So a lot of acts, Bob Dylan, Paul Simon. I remember we watched that concert. A lot of the jazz acts over the years, Chick Corea, Bernadette Peters. I mean, one of my favorites. We named, Andy and I, our son after her. I remember calling her saying, well, the reason we did, and not to get into all the specifics, is we were on a trip and she was on a trip, and somewhere 9 months later, Andy gave birth to Peter Schankman, and I called her and I said, we're gonna have a kid and we're gonna name him after you. We're gonna name him Peter. She said, what if it's a girl? I said, we don't have a name yet. But the point of the fact is, she's been a love in our life, and we've done a lot of shows with her. So across the board, there's people. I mean, it's hard to pick out your favorite concert. I used to say, but my life has changed in the last 20 years. I don't say this much anymore, but they would say, what's your favorite show? And I'd always say the one that sells out. But you know what? I live a different life now, and it's more about giving than it is about getting. And you all know the Winston Churchill quote, we make a living by what we do, not by, and we make a life by what we give. And I think philanthropy is so important. Like I said, it's an obligation. I mean, we need to give back, and your organization gives back in so many ways. Matter of fact, all Jewish organizations do across the board. It's just amazing. And I know, I don't know if Michael's listening, but I mean, what the Steinberg Foundation, Foundation has done, I measure up such a small amount to what he has done in St. Louis. And I give him these kudos because we wouldn't have had the factory if it wasn't for Michael. And the factory is the new 3,000 seat entertainment venue being built in the Chesterfield Valley, which Michael has other interests out there, but it's at the District, which is the old Taubman Mall. And the neat thing about the factory is everything that I thought and others that work with Michael thought and worked with me, we wanted. Michael put it on a list, and he did, and then he overdid. You're going to walk into like a Thompson Hotel, not a concert venue, and the seats and the view of the stage, everything is unobstructed. I used to have Finale in Clayton, and it was built at the Clayton on the Park, and we just made a space into a jazz club. And I always hated the fact that 4 people had to sit behind a pole. There are no poles. This is all open. The worst seat is the best seat. This is the most, this will be venue of the year. This is the greatest venue in St. Louis for watching and listening to a concert. And the St. Louis Symphony will come out there and do a concert. We'll have young shows for kids, my youngest kid's age, 8 years old. We will have jazz, pop, rock, rap, country acts that you will all want to see. We're in Chesterfield. We're not in downtown. We're not in the Loop. We're in a nice, safe area, free parking, lots of great restaurants. I mean, you can go to Annie Gunn's at 6 o'clock and watch a concert at 8 o'clock. And if you're a cigar smoker, you can go to Lit next door and have a cigar and a cocktail afterwards. Michael's already solicited some great restaurants. We have Main Event, which is almost a duplicate of Dave & Buster's. Michael was able to get, they're on the opposite side by Top Golf, which is kind of the sports side of the District, and we're on the entertainment side with the factory. But it's a beautiful facility. I can't wait for all of you to get to see it. And the biggest question, who's playing and when you're opening? And who's playing and when we're opening is up to capacity and content. This page was out there, county executive page last week. We're going to open this place as fast as we can. It'll be a slow opening. It'll be midsummer. There'll be some local bands which need the work, doing some tribute shows. I can't name exactly which ones yet. And then we'll move into the big name acts that you'll want to see, shows you'd have to go downtown to see. You'll now be able to be in where you live, Town and Country, Creve Coeur, Olivet, not to mention what we're going to draw from the west side of the state, Kansas City, Columbia, Jeff City. I mean, we're an hour away from millions of people, and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people drive by the sign that Michael has up there, the District sign, which will announce the shows that are coming in. We're even going to have sports events there, extreme games. We have a flat floor. We'll do banquets there. There'll be a Jewish event there, I guarantee you. We can seat over 600 people at 72-inch rounds. We love the Ritz. We love the Four Seasons. But to have all the sound and lights and staging and people already there, the show is just tables, chairs, and a caterer and some good Jewish wine. So it's going to be an unbelievable facility. I can't wait for all of you to see it. I'm giving you whoops, I got the wrong venue up. I'm not fast this morning. I'm usually faster on my game. Excuse me, why I moved from the Two Hill over to Michael. I hope you're not watching, to the factory.
There was a picture that we put up.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, I'm gonna.
Yeah, we can put it up again if you
Here
want.
it is. Here it is. There it is. There
Okay,
it is.
that's what we had up.
So smoking decks. You're looking at a smoking deck. Leaving a listen. It's not good to smoke. I don't promote it, but to leave a concert with to have a cigarette, you're gonna be able to walk out on the second floor balcony. We have two decks on each side, east and west side, for smokers to go out or just to get fresh air. The view. Listen. I could spend the whole hour talking about what Michael and our architects and designers have done here. And Brian Karp, who's from St. Louis, you may know his mom and dad. He's our manager and COO. He came back to St. Louis. Thank God for that. 3 years ago, he's running the place. And you have Michael, you have me, the guy I hired to book. He's working in our Nashville office. Dan Merker, another St. Louisan that lives in Nashville now, but his parents live in Town and Country. So it's a locally run. It's not a house of blues. This is your community facility now for up to 3,000 capacity.
Well, we'll look forward to having an NCJW event there.
You'll get the charitable rate. You can be sure of that.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's talk a little more about music for a minute. You formed a band, the Motown Review. And Heather, why don't we play the real quick 30-second clip we have of Steve and the Motown Review?
R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, take care of TCB. Suck it to me, 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 ring, 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 ring. Suck it to me, 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 ring, 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 ring.
Uptown funk you up, uptown funk you up, uptown funk you up, uptown funk you up.
Oh, I so missed that band. But rehearsals start in 2 weeks. And like I said, we'll be playing our first job at a wedding at Westwood Country Club on May the 1st. So the Motown Review, Susan, is just a spin out of the band I had back in the 60s for all you U-City people that went to Wigwam, or your Clayton people that went to Depot, or Ramsden at Ladue. This was a band called the Impact Soul Review. We had, I think back then we had 5 African-American singer males. We had 1 female, Charlie Tuna, who I just did his show on K-Fans last night, was our MC. You maybe remember him from the Gams when they had the kangaroo shoes. He was their top sales associate. So this is just a spin out, but it's been together for over 30 years. Once again, I got to give credit to where credit's due. Andy brought some of these singers, the original singers, to my party at my 40th at Westport Playhouse. And Mark Myers and me sat in with the band. And the next thing I knew, I started another band. And it was the fabulous Motown Review. And now we have the Velvet, the 4 guy singers. And we have the Diamond Divas, the 3 gal singers that you saw. Mark and I are still together. Can you imagine 2 Jewish boys that started music when they were 15 and 16-year-olds still standing next to each other playing music? And the coolest thing, it came at a bad time because both of our mothers were dying, and they both were at the Barnes Rehab on Brentwood, and Mark's dad was there, and so was my dad. And they realized, my dad, because Mark's dad was a violinist that became a paper man, a big paper man. He had a lot of paper routes, and my dad realized that he had a program from the St. Louis Philharmonic where both Dr. Myers' dad and my dad played together in the violin section back in the 30s. Can you imagine the fact that history repeats itself? And here Mark and I have been playing now together over 50 years, more than 50 years. Anyway, it's a great band. There's 17 of us. I've hired another trumpet player so I can kibitz with the clients, because I'll play a party and, all of a sudden Lee Lansky will walk up and want to talk to me, and I'm trying to play Uptown Funk, and it's hard to do both. So I have another trumpet player who's much, much better than me, a young guy, and we're back playing. So it's really more of a cultural, because we're very diverse, our group, and it's just a wonderful way to please people. Katie, my wife now, asked me one time, why do you do it weekends? And we could be doing other things, or you could be doing other things. Why do you play? So you'll know within weeks of us knowing each other. Sure enough, we're sitting at a restaurant. A woman comes up with her husband. She's got a baby in a stroller, maybe a year old. Mr. Schankman, you made our wedding. We got married at Sunset Country Club. You were the band, the songs you played, the way your musicians treated our guests, and you played special songs, and you came to our table. And Katie said, I get it. And that's the way it is. And that's why I do it, because I feel that we're really making people's lives happier.
Well, that's beautiful. And, there's so much going on in your life. I'm not quite sure how you have juggled everything all the time. But
staying healthy, Susan, we work out at the same place. That staying healthy is the key. We have to, some things are dealt to us. Heart disease, cancer. Some things, there's nothing, high blood. We can't do anything about some things except we can manage our lives. Although I'm watching the Comiskey method right now with Michael Douglas, and I'm wondering if I should turn it off, because it's all about getting sick. And here Michael Douglas had throat cancer and he's got lung cancer, but they play such a wonderful combination of two friends together. I can't turn it off, because I think of that like with my friend Mark or my friend Daryl, my high school buddies, and I have lots of newer friends too. But I'm so glad you played Respect, because I would encourage you all to watch Genius. I've watched the last 2 nights. It's a story of Aretha Franklin, who was obviously the queen of soul. I won't get into a lot of bad stories about her, because I have those. And I got Andy and Katie both going, oh, I know some bad stories about dealing with Aretha. But, it's sort of factual about her life. There's some things in there that aren't actually fact. But watch it. It's Genius. It's about Aretha. It's just like watching the story about Ray Charles. It was too much about his drug use as opposed to his music. And that's the problem with Hollywood. They make, these stories not exactly the truth. But thanks for showing that cut, because it reminded me to tell people to watch Genius. It's on the National Geographic Channel, and I think it's on Hulu or Vudu or one of those crazy things. Stay healthy. Staying healthy and alive is what it's all about. I see people retire and they have nothing to do. They call me for lunch. And I like going to lunch every day, so I don't mind it. But you got to stay active. Your mind has to stay active. That's why I love doing these shows. And I don't have any notes in front of me. You got to keep your mind active.
Right. Okay, I have a few more questions, but I'm going to turn things over to Lisa, because I know people in the chat room and elsewhere have questions, and I want to give you a chance to ask them. Steve, thank you so much. Lisa.
Thank you, Susan. So Farrellyn, she put a note in the chat, and I'll read it to you. Hi, Steve. I'm a fellow Daniel Booner, actually your sister's age. I know this question has nothing to do with your talk this morning, but I would love to know how she is. We were good friends 100 years ago and have such good memories of hanging out at your house and listening to her play the flute. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She was wondering how she's doing.
I just talked to her because we celebrated, I don't know how many years since my parents died, a whole bunch of years, but my dad died on the 16th of March, I think. Anyway, she's doing great. She's been a musician all her life. She married a musician, Rick, who she met, I guess, he was at WashU. She was at Webster. So she's doing great. I think she's coming in for the reunion. That's just a rumor, though. So we may see a sighting of Irish Shankman Schwartz this year. But she's doing great. And she doesn't have any kids, but she has her pussy cat, which she loves. And she's still playing the flute out in the community. And she's a great 5.5 years younger than me, sister. And also, if I mention her, I should mention Stuart, my brother, who's 6 years older than me. He was a 61 grad of U City High. So we all went to U City High school. But thanks for asking about Iris.
Thank you. And Andy, your ex-wife, said, don't forget to mention Pavarotti. Is there a story about Pavarotti?
Well, Pavarotti came to St. Louis. We did him with the St. Louis Symphony at the old Checker Dome, which was the old arena that came to Checker Dome, the Cow Palace. I don't know what story she wants me to tell about him. What a great concert we had. You want to talk about, he wanted a massage. We had to get a masseuse, and we had to get 2 tables because we couldn't fit him on one. I don't know what story. I don't know
Really?
what story she wants me to tell about him.
It's okay.
She'll put
That's
it
a
in the
story.
chat. I don't have a lot of stories
Yeah,
about
put
it.
it in the chat.
Yeah,
It's
well, we
a
did
story,
do,
but that's
yeah.
enough, like what you
Yeah.
just said.
well, there was a party afterwards at La Chateau, actually. And I mean, to meet Pavarotti was to meet the biggest, well, physically biggest, but also, I mean, once again, a hero. I mean, if you like opera, I mean, it's like doing dance. We brought in, what was the great dancer, the Russian dancer, not Brishnikov. See, sometimes I do forget. Anyway, we brought him in. So did she say, did Andy come back and tell us? No, she didn't tell us.
No, she didn't. She
Okay.
didn't.
All right.
But one question we always we'd like to ask our special guests is, what are you most proud of?
Well, my family. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I'm talking about my extended family all the way back to my beginning days. I'm going back to 68. I got married. I guess that's true, with Margie Beck, a nice woman, and the mother of my oldest son, Andy, and my son Peter, who's 32, and Katie, and my beautiful twin. Oh my God. I always wanted girls. Andy knows that. And here I am with that. I have twin girls. Here I am, 72 years old, with the 8-year-old girls that do keep me alive. But my family, my brother, my sister, I mean, family's everything. I mean, friends are important, but family's everything. And your heritage. And it's so important to understand why you are the way you are. Because I look at Ryan, she comes to my office, she's 7.5, almost 8 years old. She wears a t-shirt that says future CEO. Here, my 32-year-old son, who's done a wonderful job here in the last decade, working at Contemporary, future CEO. I asked my girls, because I didn't have the cleaning people coming into my office during COVID, don't touch this and wear a mask everywhere. So I wouldn't have anybody come into my office except me. I have a sign that says, it's still up there, keep out. So I said to Ryan and Sophia, I said, let's go on Sunday, bring the vacuum cleaner. We need to clean my office. I'll give you each $5. And Ryan looks at me and says, Daddy, how about 10? I mean, I'm looking at myself. I mean, it's amazing how you are what you are. I mean, it's what you come from. So there's no doubt the family, but second to that is the community. I'm so excited about being in St. Louis, and here I am in Nashville, and I'm talking up St. Louis, but St. Louis is so important to me. And then third would be friends. And your old friends are your best friends. I see people popping up from class of 66. I mean, I'm still friends with Daryl Gold. We started first grade together with Irv Zuckerman, but Irv moved to California. And it's so important to stay connected to your friends. And old friends are the best friends. I mean, I like some of my new friends, don't get me wrong. But I would say the three things are family, community, and friends. And fourth would be business. If I couldn't do business, I don't know what would happen. I better put music up there too. I left it out. I forgot. I said how important it is to me. I left it out. So it's up there very, very high up. When you show me the band, I have tears in my eyes. I can't wait to get out and play, which Andy's looking at me, and so is Katie. You better get the trumpet out and start practicing. And they're right. I do have to do that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of St. Louis, as you know, and I just wish we could do more. And I know we will. I know we will. And we're going to get back into these restaurants. Harley, I was at Tony's yesterday, at Anthony's, and James actually called me at home last night to ask me how I liked my experience. So I don't want them ever on your list of lost tables, please. I don't mind some of the other ones, but I don't want to see that one. And then today I'm having lunch at the new restaurant at the Ritz, and it's supposedly an unbelievable Italian restaurant. My friend Bill Miller went to the actual restaurant in Italy, and I'm supposing it's going to be wonderful food. So we're going there today because I'm a big supporter of restaurants, and we're still going to go to Napoli, and we're still going to Capitol Grill. We're going to keep our regulars going, and even Grassi's, but we're going to go to some of these new restaurants too. So yeah, oh,
I
see.
apologize. I'm outside so you can hear.
Okay, so my ex-wife
Just
Andy,
put it in there.
my ex-wife Andy is still the greatest ambassador of contemporary. She says, you want to talk about Pavarotti because they show the diversity of things you do. And that's true. I did the Ollie Holmes fight, and I did Pavarotti. So you're right. We do a lot of things at contemporary. And Pavarotti was probably the only opera singer I can remember that I did, but we did dancers and all kinds of things throughout. Mud events, oh my God, Andy, do we have to talk about motorsports? Yes, we were the largest producer of motorsports in America with a company called United Sports of America. We're the guys that went into NFL stadiums, put down tons and tons of dirt, and did mud races and truck pulls. We made Bigfoot and Gravedigger famous. We were on TV. But yes, my secret to my success was in the mud at NFL stadiums, not only in this country, but we took the motor spectaculars to Japan, Australia, and to Europe. So yes, I did live that life in the mud. Thanks, Andy. I'll come back to you, Susan, with questions.
I think we have one more question in the chat. One more question, and then we'll get to doing the raffle too. What is the biggest change you've seen in the music business today versus when you started Contemporary Productions?
Well, you'd have to look at the record business. I mean, when I signed Head East, which had a top 20 single, Never Been Any Reason, in the mid-'70s to A&M Records, that was a big deal. Here we were, all of a sudden, and the reason we got into the management business is because we're doing all these shows, and the acts take out all the money. I mean, people have this myth that the promoter makes all the money. Well, even today, the money's in the alcohol, not in the tickets. The artists take out sometimes 90% of the ticket sales, less all the expenses. So we decided to manage a few bands. So the height of the record business was in the 70s. I mean, gold was passe. People were doing platinum albums, you know, millions of albums, double platinum, triple platinum. I mean, it was incredible, and it's all gone. I mean, vinyl's gone. It's coming back. I'm sure some of you have your old record players and you're playing Cream and you're playing some of your Bob Dylan, Robert Zimmerman, his real name, a nice Jewish boy, songwriter and guitarist. But really, I miss the record industry. It's changed everything. Everything is now on the internet. If you want on Spotify, I bought a new car. I'm trying to put a CD in. There's no CD player. They don't have CD players in 2021 cars. I got to get into an older car, which I have those too. I still have my 68 MG that I bought when I got married the first time. It's sitting in my garage with 19,000 miles on it. And Andy will say, and if Katie's on or whatever, even if Margie's on, I'm a creature of the old. I love watching Leave It to Beaver, because getting to meet Jerry Mathers, which I did because we did a show called The Odd Couple, and to sit, I'm going to tell you one of my vices. We're sitting at the Ritz Hotel in Kansas City on the plaza there. It actually was Crown Center at the time, not on the plaza, the bigger hotel, Crown Center, the Hallmark Hotel. And we're smoking cigars, and I'm sitting with the Beaver, Jerry Mathers. Still had the curl on his hair. He's my age. We're both, I think he may be a few months older, in our 70s. And I'm Leave It to Beaver with Steve and Wally. Matter of fact, Wally came to St. Louis. Tony Dow came and had Christmas with us in St. Louis. Remember, Andy? And again, I'm living my childhood every day. I love the past. I love living in the 60s. I love thinking about U City High School. I love thinking about UMSL, because my whole life has been within a few miles. I lived in U City, Clayton, Richmond Heights, Ladue twice, and my office is on Hanley. My high school's on Hanley, and even the college I went to is off of Hanley and Natural Bridge. And all these people that I know that live out of town or leave town all the time, I'm so lucky. You know, I'm so lucky. I look at Harley. We lived here all of our lives. By the way, Harley's married to my cousin. We've lived here all our lives, and we have our business. We've sold our business, and we talk about restaurants. We talk about music. I mean, I think that's great. And people that have moved across America and have relocated, happy for them. But there's nothing better than being right here on Hanley and Carondelet. I mean, my car wash is gone, but Waterways, thanks to the Pinsky family, we're getting a nice Waterways down there where I mean, don't you remember for over 50 years, I washed my car at the Clayton Car Wash, and now we're gonna have a Waterways. I'm sorry, I told you when I get on to nostalgia, I go crazy. I'm a big fan of Lost Tables. I mean, I'm on it every single day.
Well, hopefully we will have Harley back on again. He was awesome. I'm glad you said that. Last thing, several people have mentioned whether you will have Andre Bocelli at the factory. Is that an option?
Not impossible. We're going to do acts that you would normally see at arenas at the factory. We may do multiple nights. There may be charities involved. There may be $1,000 tickets because we're going to raise money for charity. We like the $100 ticket, but the 1,000 and 5 and 10s pay for these big artists. So it is not impossible that we will see at the factory major artists that you see other places. I want to do the symphony there. I want to do the symphony with like a Bela Fleck or with a Bernadette Peters. or some other artist that would sell out as a pop concert. Maybe some of you remember Queenie Park, because I used to go because my dad played in the symphony for 35 years. So we're going to see things, I promise you, and Mike Steinberg promises you, because we want to do a lot of things in the Jewish community, but we're also going to be very diverse and very open to all communities. This is about St. Louis. This is not about a House of Blues, a national chain comes to St. Louis. This is about inclusion, big inclusion. You're going to see things there that you don't normally see. You'll feel safe. You're going to like going there. You have a nice, comfortable chair and easy parking and great restaurants. Michael's promised great restaurants at the district. And if not, there's also going to be great restaurants across the street and in your own neighborhood. So it's going to be a wonderful project. I am so charged about what Michael's doing. I can't tell you. It's coming soon to St. Louis. Coming soon.
We're excited, and we live in Chesterfield, so we're very excited.
Great.
And thank you very, very much for being here today. We appreciate it. And to show our appreciation, Steve, we are going to sponsor a child in your name for our back to school store.
Oh,
So-
that's so delightful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you.
Thank
very,
you,
very,
thank
very
you.
much.
And I have to mention, we have a new sponsor too. The St. Louis Community Credit is sponsoring our show. So thank you to them. And our next coffee talk is April 27th. And I don't want to miss saying that NCJW has an upcoming event called The Grape Escape on April 10th, a virtual escape to benefit NCJW. So sign up, register, and I will turn it to Susan to pick the lucky winner of your book, Steve.
Okay, I have everybody's name in my bowl. So let me pick one. Susan Whitty,
Oh, yay.
are you
All right.
on with us?
And I'm happy to
There she
autograph it
is.
to her. I will be happy to put her name in the book. I've already signed the book, but I'll be happy to put her name in there so she knows it was me that autographed it at any time.
All right, and Susan, we'll get you the book.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Matter of fact, Susan, if you want to come down and have lunch and bring the other Susan and Lisa with you, I'll treat you over to Anthony's across the street. And I'll sign the book that day.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So when you all
That's a
feel,
deal.
we all feel vaccinated and comfortable and willing to get out.
Okay.
And
Just
don't
Very
forget,
good. Thank
don't
you.
forget to go on the St. Louis Zoo site or All Together for Animals for this incredible fundraiser for animals. But listen, we need our animals. They're very important to us. And this will be on March 31st, but you can buy your tickets for $30 at any time between now and March 31st.
And you go on the St. Louis Zoo website.
Either that or All Together for Animals website, either one, you'll be able to make a donation. And what's been
Okay.
great about it is half the people that have bought tickets have donated money to their own local zoo. So we're going to raise millions of dollars for zoos and animals and aquariums
Great.
and aviaries. So thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I want to do part 2, but we got to get Harley back and then I'll follow him.
You've got a deal. We will do that. Thank you. Thank you all. Stay well
Thank you all. Happy Passover.
Yes.
and happy Easter to those
Yes.
who celebrate Easter.